My name is Kieran Bailey. I am 50% of Experience 101, and we are a full-service guest experience agency. And we look at guest experience through multiple eyes, I guess, through across the whole sector. We look at digital, we create podcasts, we create videos, we are learning and development, so we do some training and development of people, and we have a rather interesting advisory service where you will get either me, my sweet self, or my little boldy friend down there will come and join you, and we'll have some quality time. I have assembled this panel, this rather illustrious panel, and I've done it with the rule in mind that my mum taught me. It was always to make sure that you are the dumbest person in the room. So when I did that, I looked at the three people I wanted to have around me, and I thought I found three very super smart, cool people who've made me smile over the years, and I know will have a tremendous amount of value to add. And we're going to talk about amplifying your team's experience. And we're going to look at it from every single step of the process, through recruitment, through learning and development, and through day-to-day operations. And I look at those three people I've got on my panel, and they've all got something to add on every one of those, whilst being an expert in specific areas. So guys, would you like to introduce yourself? Let's kick off with Rich, because you are directly to my right as the screen sees.
Yep. So thanks for having me here. I'm Richard. I'm the Director of Hospitality Operations for Amagil Group. We're a hospitality entity based out in Saudi Arabia. We run luxury fine dining restaurants. Our three major brands are Hellenica, which is our Greek concept, Belgravian, our brasserie, and Nozomi, our Japanese. We currently occupy 54 awards as in Best Restaurant in Class in 3 countries, Best Asian in Class in 3 countries, and numerous others. So it's great to be here, and opening restaurants during a pandemic internationally has been a challenge, actually. Thank you.
Can't wait to hear about that. Claudia.
Hi everyone, my name is Claudia. I'm a learning and development specialist, and I'm also a co-host of a award-winning podcast on happiness, which is all about, well-being, happiness, employee engagement in the workplace. Very, very excited to be here. Thank you.
And it's an amazing podcast. I think we actually spoke for the first time the day after you won your award. I remember you getting all excited and me getting excited with you. It's an absolute joy. Louise.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation, Kieran. Delighted to be here. So I'm Louise Gallant, and I head up marketing in the UK for Harry, which is an end-to-end people platform for the hospitality industry, which covers recruitment, onboarding, scheduling, payroll, and soon to be training and development as well. So my background is 20 years in kind of recruitment and hospitality. So that's me.
Happy days. And Harry are at the forefront of recruitment technology, I think I would say. So I'm sure you're going to have some interesting ideas about how we can utilize technology effectively in that recruitment process. Super. So when I started to think about this, this whole discussion, I started to do some research, and I was looking at some of the numbers that are out there. And some of the research I was reading was telling me that 87% of people who feel engaged within the business and the brand that they're a part of are less likely to leave that job than their counterparts in businesses that are not so engaged. And that for me strikes me that actually that's something we need to be really paying attention to, because at a time when recruitment is challenging, that finding great people, the best people, is actually quite tough, then why wouldn't we be putting our time and effort in to engaging with the people that we've got in our business? And I'm a big believer in the idea of love the ones you've got. I think that goes back to our Hard Rock days, Rich, where we were always told that take time to be kind about those people who walk through your doors and who were there on a day-to-day basis. That makes perfect sense to me. So we've got to spend some time thinking about that. But from a recruitment process, engaging with those individuals as you start that recruitment process is absolutely key. And I guess I'm going to kickstart with you, Lou, as to what that looks like from your perspective. Engagement right now is tougher than it ever has. Recruitment right now is tougher than it has been in quite some time. There's a lot of people out there looking for the same people who are looking to try and get them into their business. And we all want the rock stars. None of us want the average Joe. We all want those who are going to excel and exceed. So what can we do? How can we follow that? How can we adapt that recruitment process to be able to A, select the rock stars, but B, then bring them into the business? What are your thoughts, Lou?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So let's put some figures around that as well. So out of the we've had what 1.3 million people lost their jobs in the last 12 months. Out of that, 43% of them were from hospitality, and so there's many people that are unemployed. There's a mixture of people unemployed and on furlough. Over the last 12 months, 355,000 people were unemployed in hospitality, in comparison to 11,000 that were unemployed within the industry in 2019. So that's kind of the difference. Now, you'd think that you would have quite a buoyant market, wouldn't you, with that many people unemployed? But from what we've seen over the last couple of years, and hospitality have obviously started to open their doors recently, albeit outside. But we're seeing a real war for talent. And if you think about how that is layered, you have people that have not been working for 12 months. So, and that varies. You talk about engagement, Kieran. We've got companies that are really struggling to keep their people right now and recruit people, versus from what I can see, maybe smaller businesses that have kept that authenticity, that have kept engaged with their teams over the last 12 months. Their teams feel very much part of the business, and therefore feel that they want to return. Those bigger businesses that may not have done it so well are losing those people. Layer Brexit on top of that, etc., etc. So we haven't had a talent crisis like this since probably around 2008, and unemployment isn't as bad as was expected nationally. But I think businesses that are struggling, have very much got to look from within. It's about that authenticity. It's about the culture. It's about engaging with people and building out your employer brand and being that employer of choice. I think, yes, tech very much supports the process. I was talking to someone the other day who was blaming tech for not having the candidates in the market at the time. But when we peel back the layers, they wanted chefs. They wanted kind of entry-level chefs to come into the business. We're in a marketplace where we have to rebuild this industry really quickly, and everybody is doing it. It's called the rapid rebuild, right? So everyone is after the same talent pool, and a lot of the EU nationals have gone home. Fact. So why am I seeing people making entry-level chefs jump through hoops and wait weeks and weeks on end to get a job? And I guess that's where the tech can support that, because you've got to look at your processes. You've got to make it easy for people to join your business, but you've also got to be open-minded about who you have in your business. If you want those entry-level chefs in volume, does it really matter if they don't have any experience? Depending on what they're doing. And I guess that would come on to Claudia's remit of having the training and development in place to support that as well. So
with the tech, Louise, so that sort of recruitment process, what tech is out there available to help with that recruitment process to make it run as smoothly as possible? Because I think there's a lot of people out there with a very traditional view of what the recruitment process should look like. We were chatting to a client last week and they were talking about how many steps there should be as part of that recruitment process. and it was elongated, if I'm honest with you. And I think for me, we should be looking to try and simplify and smoothen that process out as easy as we possibly can do. Certainly kind of in the kind of casual dining sort of QSR element, we could definitely do that. From Rich's perspective, from the fine dining, that's a slightly different kind of conversation of the skill level that you're looking for. But what tech is available right now that could help us to really better make that process simple and smooth?
Well, there's all sorts of tech, isn't there? And I think we've become very tech capable over the last 12 months in terms of the simple things like Teams, like Zoom, like virtual interviewing and recruiting. And then for the bigger QSR brands and casual dining brands, you know, if you haven't got an ATS in place that is nimble and quick, then you know, you're already behind the times. For the smaller brands that can't necessarily afford, you know, the recruitment tech, then I think Zoom and Teams is great. I think gone will be the days of traditional sitting down and interviewing people. And then there's obviously Harry. So we've just launched a tool that will really speed up the process. So she's called Carrie, and she's
I love a theme. I do love a theme.
she's a text hire kind of chatbot, AI conversational chatbot, basically. So you come onto the market as a candidate, you get a WhatsApp, you're told what jobs are available, and you book the interview on one WhatsApp conversation. That's how quick the tech is becoming now. And that's, you know, that's why we knew it would be a challenging marketplace. It is a candidate market. You know, a lot of people, and we know this, a lot of people that were on furlough have actually left hospitality now. They've gone to deliveries, they've gone to retail. I think M&B have 39,000 employees, and out of those they've lost 9,000, just to give you a sense of, you know, what's happening in the marketplace. And they've gone to retail and delivery. So so the importance is speed in hiring, and obviously ensuring that you're hiring the right people, but there's lots of tech in place to help you do that, right? In screening questions, in social employee referral tools, setting up job templates, etc. And video interviewing, of course. But I think the key is the speed of the process to get people in the business right now.
So I think as well, one of the points you make as well is kind of that reliance on tech. You know, tech is there as a tool that's there designed to help and aid the process, and it's not just the only answer. Charlotte's just highlighted that we're speaking in acronyms that not everybody recognizes. So when we do that, I will do my very best to make sure that everyone's clear what we're talking about. Richard, from your perspective, you know, you've been opening restaurants kind of during this pandemic, and you've been doing it internationally, which I don't imagine was the easiest process in the world ever. How have you found it, mate?
So it's obviously it's been a challenge. We've got 300 staff arriving and arrived over 17 different countries, culminating in multiple nationalities that we decided to do during the middle of a pandemic. And in addition to that, we decided to open 2 new brands. So yeah, it was a great. If we didn't want to make our job harder, we certainly couldn't have made it. But that being said, with regards to recruitment, we sat down once we knew what was happening. We sat down and made a very clear directive. We knew that once the pandemic was over, that it would very quickly become an employee's market. They would be able to be extraordinarily choosy. They will not put up with some of the things that have been going on in the past. And moreover, there were 2 main touch points. Number one, people wanted to know that they were going to be financially secure because, you know, engagement's fantastic, but no one can go to bed at night if they can't think that they're going to be able to turn the light on in the morning. The second part about it was being bored. You know, when you're sitting at home, hands lose skill levels very quickly, especially in chefs, especially at high ends. You know, they lose it. So we decided that we were going to try and hit this head on. Number one, we put in a policy that we recruit when we find the right person, irrelevant if we have the position or not. You know, a single person or 2 or 3 people in our business that we don't have a position for, but we know they're great and we will use them in the future. Those 3 people's salaries is not going to change the world. You know, it's not going to shift our P&L anywhere near enough for us to worry about it. So if we find good people, irrelevant to time or position, we bring them on. So we did this earlier on. In addition, we then started partnering up with schools. So we would actually start sending schools, and as of today, we sent 115 people throughout the pandemic to a culinary school that is now officially associated with us.
Wow.
So we kept them engaged. And this is, these culinary schools are in 6 countries that we've arranged this. In addition to that, now we built our own here locally. We figured, well, we might as well do it locally as well, because talent pool is getting smaller. It's been doing so for years, and the pandemic has accelerated that pool contraction, sorry. So as that's going to not change, and as we continue to develop, the hospitality pool is going to get smaller and smaller. So now we're developing things locally. So we are setting up a hospitality school here. We have 3 restaurants located here that are very close together, culminating in 3 different food types. So with the school going through, we make it generate enough to wash its face. It's not there to make a profit. It's there just to pay for itself. And then outside of that, we guarantee the top 5 students each year guaranteed jobs. So this allows us an internal pool of continuous recruitment alongside the ones that we've set up internationally. And our aim is by 2022 to have our school associated and certified by an international body. And locally, we've associated it with the local cultural municipality. So it makes them happy too. So when we talk about the pandemic, you know, just to summarize here, we knew that when the pandemic was going to end, it always was going to end, that we would either join people scrambling to try and find a team to rebuild and re-engage our restaurants, or we sat back and said, no, let's, you know, suck it up, see this through, engage with our teams through different skills facets, through schools and education, and basically just keeping them busy, because you know, an inactive mind is a doubting mind. So they very quickly start doubting what they're doing, start doubting their career choice, and start thinking about other careers to go into. So in order for us to say this, you know, we keep them busy, we financially ensure that they feel secure in their life to the best of our abilities, and we've managed to do that. And you know, today, you know, proudly, especially in our Nozomi brand, you know, we've lost 2 managers in 7 years only out of all of our restaurants. And throughout the pandemic, we've managed to maintain 92% of our entire team.
Wow.
So this means we're only looking for a very small percentage to bring us back up to our full strength. And, you know, as I think anyone in the hospitality business will tell you, when you did reopen, sales went skyrocketing through the roof. And I didn't want us to be in the position where we weren't prepared. So we've noticed that since we've opened our sales are up. We're at like 130% of normal sales, which, given the price point that we operate at, is quite staggering. You know, we're doing 560 covers for dinner every night in each one of our outlets at, you know, £200 a head. So it's really important that we didn't lose out on this, because the first 3 months after the restaurants reopened, we knew this was our chance to try and recoup some of this lost revenue. And there was no way that we felt that opening with substandard or lesser par levels in our team was going to suffice in order for us to do that. So that was our initial thoughts and brief, which we decided to do back in February of when about a month before we went into complete lockdown here. But I think as businesses, the fact that I was very happy that we faced the problem head on. And one of the biggest problems head on that no one ever likes to talk about is cost. But we faced it head on, and I'm extraordinarily pleased with our results afterwards. Are there some things we still could have done better? Absolutely. But and we'll talk about engagement later, about what we do with our teams and all the rest. But from our recruitment standpoint and the pandemic impact standpoint, I think we've done really well. And our business leaders that run our brands, they've been terrific throughout all of this. Managing their teams from their countries and their teams internationally and all the rest of it. And, I certainly wish we had more shares in Zoom.
How does that mindset compare with your competitors, Richard, as a business? I mean, that idea that kind of if you find the right person, you bring them on board. You put some time and money into training and developing them even further. How does that compare to the rest of your market?
Yeah, so if we look at some of our chief competitors out here, and I won't bring up too many names, but if we look at our chief competitors at our level, there's been huge struggles for them. We have some of the high reputable operators only operating at 35-40% operation. Given the expense it costs to put a fine dining meal on the table, that's just not going to cut it. When you add on the fact that it takes about 2.5 months for a process, forget the interview process and bringing everyone on board, just the visa process, flights, getting them here, isolation when they're here, medicals and everything else. You're talking 2.5-3 months before they start their training. So if you're not prepared for it early, which quite a number of our competitors here were not, there was one or two that seemed to follow fairly similar suit to us. So it was good to see that, that what we were thinking was the only idea out there. But I thought ours has proven to be quite robust, and certainly after reviewing the numbers and the feedback, it certainly seems to be.
Great to hear. So that final element of recruitment and moves into the next stage is the onboarding. We've found them, we've recruited, and then onboarding. And this is where your specialism really kind of comes into play, Claudia. What does a great onboarding process look like? Because I've been through many over the years in my career, and there've been some where I thought, wow, that's amazing. I feel like I'm engaged with the business. And there's been others where I just think, okay. Chris, I think, mentioned one yesterday on his session where somebody spent a day in a cupboard under the stairs with a laptop doing various different degrees of e-learnings and trainings. Wow. I mean, that as an onboarding experience feels like I'm probably not going to be on board for long, to be honest.
Yeah,
so
yes, I've had those.
It's
sorry, those e-learning.
That's exactly the feeling, Charlotte. That is exactly the feeling. So, Claudia, what does it look like? What does a good process look like?
I think from L&D perspective, the good process is the one that makes you excited and motivated to be there from day one. And I think the biggest two components, how to create that, is kind of the mastery. Let's play instantly to people's skills. Let's get their kind of practical skills and strength showcased, so their confidence goes up and they feel straight away impactful and appreciated. And the second one is that purpose. So very quickly joining, kind of giving that person a purpose and how they are specifically contributing to the business success and objectives. And I think that really should be the focus of the kind of first 2 weeks, I would say. It's very much building a sense of belonging, building that kind of sense of purpose. I am belonging and I'm straight away contributing. Of course, we have to do mandatory training. So I do apologize for some kind of maybe e-learning, non-sexy type of topics that we have to complete. But really, they should not form, I would say, the entire kind of part of a welcome program from the beginning. And I also think it is very much about clarity of what's going to happen in the first 2 weeks, month, and 3 months, because we know that starting a new job, exciting, but it's also stressful. because for us as individuals, we know we're changing we're going out of our comfort zone, we're changing our routine of working. So let's give people very nice clarity of what's going to be happening across those kind of, let's say minimum 3 months. And also give them a little bit of autonomy at the later stage of what they would like to get involved in. There will be so much different activities that they can do. So let's give them a guidance of, okay, this is really what we want you to go through, and that's the experience we want you to build. But this is also what you can choose from, depending on what your preferences are. And I think those 3 elements then kind of create this sense of, yeah, I love it, I'm excited, I'm motivated, I can straight away know why I'm here. The team is around me, so I feel that I have that sense of belonging, and then I'm also in charge of my onboarding. So it's not only I'm waiting for it to be delivered to me on a silver platter, I'm also driving that when it comes to influencing and that stakeholder building those relationships.
I love that. I mean, I think we all accept that e-learnings are a thing. They have to be done. There's certain mandatory processes, but we can find a way of making it interesting. It might not be sexy. I think we can all agree that food safety stuff is not the sexiest thing in the world, but it's necessary. So we can find a way of really kind of building that in. So it's not just right, go and sit in this cupboard with a laptop and it's a coffee stain laptop and it's not a great experience straight off. You touched on mastery. How are we going to be able to recognize what people's skills are quite early on in there, Claudia, to be able to really play to that mastery?
So I think we can definitely kind of, hopefully during the recruitment process and interviewing, all those kind of touch points, we understand obviously our set of expectation and criteria, and then we understand what each team member is bringing in, but also is for managers to having those conversations and really asking, what do you think your strengths are? How do you think you can contribute to the business? Asking those questions. What kind of skills you would like to develop and how we can help you to do that. It's creating that not only professional development plan, but also personal development plan, which is kind of, driven by me and my vision of my purpose of what I want to achieve in the work that I will be doing. And I think through that, you will be finding and getting to know your team and their specific strengths and the strengths of your new starters through those conversations. And then there is also feedback from the team that will be watching that new starters getting immersed. So again, how are you collecting that feedback? How are you kind of checking in that the expectations of the team and the business are met by your new starter, and how you can feedback that back to them so they know what great looks like, they know whether they are performing or not performing, and how they can get to that great vision that you have in mind as a manager.
So Louise, when we start to talk about inductions, I think we could probably all think back to an experience that we had. Can you think to an experience that you've had where you've been inducted into a business and you thought, wow, that was amazing, and it really made you feel connected to the business?
Yeah, it's a really simple little thing, and I believe that onboarding starts way before you actually join a business, and it was I won't name the business, but it was a hospitality business. They did pizza, and I was delivered a voucher and just a little bottle of chili oil to put on the pizza, and it just seemed such a small little thing, but it excited me so much that somebody took the time to actually send something like that to me, and it engaged me immediately, and I think yeah, that the first kind of week of being there, something we did recently Harry, we've been recruiting recently over the last few weeks, and you know, we've been in lockdown for the last few months, and something we did for everybody were send out things like letterbox cocktails. We were sending out meal kits. We would have a Zoom meeting with all of us, and we would make the meal together, or we would sit and drink the cocktail together. So as we've been recruiting over the last few weeks, we invited all of the new hires that hadn't started yet as well. And I think in this climate and how people are feeling at the moment, I think it was really appreciated, and by the time people started, they had already felt that they belonged. You know, they'd met people, albeit over Zoom, but I think giving people that sense of belonging is so important. And what you were saying, Claudia, around check-ins, you know, yes, there's an element of let's check in to ensure that you know what's expected of you in terms of your performance and what you need to achieve. But actually having those conversations also gives the impression that your manager cares. Yeah. Because some people don't have that at all. I can also give you an example of a bad induction.
Now, I was about to say there's probably many examples there, right?
Yeah. Well, let's not name names here.
where I've literally been just handed a laptop and nothing else, not even e-learning.
I definitely had once many years back an induction when my manager was not even around on my first week or day, you know, like they didn't even care. So when you mentioned the small things, it is as small like that. Be with your new starter on their first day. They will have questions. They want your support, you know, not speaking about the fact that you should care they're there. Yeah. So it's that kind of little things.
But also, I've had somebody recently, a friend of mine, has joined. I think it was Ted Baker, and they sent her a box. They sent her a box of goodies, and as she opened it and got all of these goodies out, she took a picture of it, and obviously put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn, and it, immediately that employer brand starts to manifest itself because other people want that too, right? So yeah, there's all sorts of benefits of getting the onboarding process right. Absolutely.
Well, I think as you both mentioned there, the steps to be able to deliver a good onboarding process are actually just so simple. It's just be nice. Just think about what you would want when you are in those shoes. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. Richard, from your perspective, what does a good onboarding process look like in your business? Because I'm pretty confident it's a good one.
Yeah, it's obviously we handled the mental stress of people starting a job and the emotional stress is always there. If you try and add to that moving country away from your family, and then you add to that moving your country to the Middle East to say for example here to Saudi, which for better or for worse has what you've seen in BBC. So by the time they've landed, they're already shitting themselves by the time they've landed. Yeah. So for us, onboarding is very important. I'll give you a small example. We had 3 people arrive, one from Madagascar and 2 from France, arrived last week, and they landed and everything else. We brought them from the airport to the staff accommodation, and I met them by the pool. And you chat to them. The first thing they saw when they came out was I was bringing Safeway shopping bags, and I had some things there, some cookies, this, that, and the other little bits and pieces. And the first person they saw from the company was myself as the director of the group, bringing them some supermarket shopping and stuff like that. And I know it's what Louise is saying. Sometimes the little things like that, and you can see people like exhale, like, okay, I'm gonna be all right. And you can see the blood return to their faces. So I think the initial contact you have with the team on day one, whatever it might be, That's the impression they're going to have with them, regardless of whatever else you do after that. That's the first impression they have. And I think we have like that one first meet to get it right. You know, after that, people forgive it. You know, we all have friends, and but we're great to meet them, even if they've done something wrong, that they've screwed up or you screwed up. You forgive about it because that initial meet that made them your friends is still there, and that's what always holds on to your memory. It's very similar with the onboarding process with people. The first thing that they see and the first thing they experience is what they're going to remember. And if the first thing you see and experience is a positive one, then they'll forgive other things down the line. Because let's face it, no matter what we do, we're all going to make a mistake somewhere along the line. But having that positive association with you whenever they see you is critically important. I think one of the other things that we gloss over sometimes, but for me, I think it's quite important, is being very, very upfront. You know, there are times where you'll interview people and you'll be overtly bubbly or overtly smiley or overtly out of your normal personality. And then when the person comes on board, they see your normal personality and the two don't match. Yep. So they've automatically now thinking, wait a minute, this isn't who interviewed me. This isn't what have I gotten myself into? So I think at the get-go, from when you first meet people by Zoom or interview process, they have to see you and who you are, and know your expectations, and know the pride you have in what you do. So at least that's set in stone. And then when they join on board, they should be, you know, the most senior person available should always go greet everyone as soon as possible. And, you know, so I think other things that we still forget is, you know, getting hands dirty. And, you know, we're all guilty of it, I think. As you get further up, you get busier, you have more things, we get glued to our phones, glued to our emails. And once in a while, you know, picking up a box of fries, or in our case, picking up a box of nori or whatever, and helping it in the warehouse, which I was today. So I'm so glad we're on Zoom because I smell really bad. But if we're, you know, going and helping and picking up boxes and climbing up racking and all the rest, you know, things like this also leave the right impression. Sometimes it doesn't always have to be a physical, like, okay, this is a training schedule, this, because our training schedules are vast. You know, for a waiter to go from day one to getting their first table takes 3 months before they get to set their first test on their first two-top. So, you know, we'll leave that to one side because it's an extraordinarily intensive training process, and we invest a huge amount of time and energy in our people. But when we talk about onboarding, I think we're talking about humanity side. And let's face it, after what's happened, that's what 99% of employees want to see right now. So from our point of view, it's incredibly important that the first thing you see, and I used the example from the other day just because that was yesterday. Or 2 days ago, where people arrived, first thing they saw was me getting out of my car with some shopping bags for them, say, hey guys, should we sit here? Let's go sit down by the pool, have a cup of coffee together. Oh, and by the way, I brought biscuits. You know, something like that. It works wonders.
I mean, that's quite a bit. If I had just traveled from France or from Madagascar, and the first person I see from the business is a director of the business holding 2 bags of shopping that's going to set me up for the next 2 days, I'm feeling good about that. And I'm invested in this business and in this brand. And I think, you know, cliches are cliches for a reason, and first impressions, lasting impressions. And what you've just done there is delivered an amazing lasting impression that those people are now, that when you start to ask them and challenge them, and, you know, that training process sounds intensive to say the least. When you're being intensive with that and you're being demanding about the quality, they're going to come back to that moment and think, well, actually, he's earned the right to ask this of me. This business have earned the right to demand this from me because they've set the expectation from the beginning. So I think it makes perfect sense, to be honest with you. So onboarding, I think we're there. I think we know it's about authenticity. It's more than a buzzword. It's about being real. It's about genuinely being yourself throughout the recruitment process, so that when they do get that first sight of you, there is not just that kind of fake, the fake version versus the real version. Tell the bloody truth, Chris says. He's absolutely right. It's quite a simple answer. Let's just tell the truth and be our truest versions of ourselves. So from a team development process, again, this can be quite intensive and in different ways. Obviously from a fine dining perspective, you've got very clear, very precise kind of ideas about what you're expecting from them and every step that they take and every action that they make. From a casual dining, a QSR, maybe less precise, but equally as kind of deliberate in its choices. Claudia, kind of, what can we do with when it comes to team development to really helping to embed that kind of that sense of feeling that actually I want to do this? How are we going to inspire these people to say, right, I'm going to put the yards in and the effort in to be the very best version of me?
Oh, what a question.
The big book, Claudia.
Very simple, yeah. Well, again, I think it is very much knowing your staff members and team members and really playing to their strengths and motivators. And if you know that and you have that authentic relationship with them, you know exactly how to motivate them to join that training, even if it's quite maybe challenging and takes months and months when it comes in terms of the length of the time. But you kind of really showcasing how that fits to their purpose and their motivations. I think that's very important. I also think it's about not losing sight of the kind of building on the future skills that we will need. I know we're concentrating on kind of now, this is what's in front of me in terms of technical skills that my staff needs to know and have to be excellent at the job, but also thinking much broader around the soft skills aspects and the well-being aspect. So how are we supporting through L&D their development of emotional intelligence, which is so key when it comes to customer service? How are we helping our staff to develop their resilience so they can be very flexible, innovative, and adaptable to constant change that we currently have? And also, because of the rise of technology, and as Louise mentioned, we are getting more technology savvy, and we kind of need it from Monday to Friday, get really technology savvy. But how old are all our team members at the same level when it comes to digital skills? Are we maintaining that technological savviness? So it's also thinking about L&D also with a kind of broader spectrum of that resilience, soft skills, digital skills, and also topping this up with a culture and values, and thinking if we are recruiting now more from rather than cultural fit, but maybe culture add, how do we then kind of help with how L&D can help for people to really connect with our brand, and what the kind of maybe key values mean when it comes to behavioral frameworks and daily behavior that we want to see in our teams.
Love that. I mean, excuse me, I think back to my days with Hard Rock. Those guys understood what training and development was.
Hard Rock Cafe.
Yes.
Gosh, I'm old. Wow.
Me too.
Yes, I remember them.
An amazing brand, still are though, to be fair. I mean, they're doing well. But
are they still about? Sorry to interrupt.
They certainly are, Charlotte, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's one brand Kieran didn't close.
Killing me.
We need to introduce Charlotte to Rita. Is it Rita?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hard Rock understood and understand. Let's be clear on that. I think back to Rock 101, and I went and spent a week in Orlando where we were just submersed within that brand. And you touched on it with the culture and the values, Claudia. That's absolutely key, and that's how they drew me in, without doubt. They made me understand very quickly that my values matched up resolutely and firmly with their own. Richard, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think being upfront about values, and I put it slightly differently earlier, but yes, having pride in what it is that you do is that people can see that it's genuine, or whether you as the boss are also just there for a paycheck. So having values is incredibly important. Like for our largest values here is attempting to become a fully plastic-free fine dining company. And if so, I think we'll be one of the world's first. And we're pretty close to it. We've got 2 items that we need to resolve, but other than that, we'll be there. And, for me, environmental responsibility is one of our corest key values. We arrange once a month, myself, and volunteers from the team, it's on their own time, they can come join us. We go out, hold hands, walk outside on the big beachfront out about 20 meters out into the water. And we literally just walk all the way down, picking up every piece of plastic we could find in the Arabian Gulf, outside of the area. And the whole point of it is, I want the guys to understand that, you know, this, the ocean gives us our business, which gives us our livelihoods, which allows our children to go to school, which allows. So let's take care of it, shall we? And number two, social responsibility for a country that's allowed us to work with businesses and be successful. So it's a bit of both. Now, with regards to the values in general from us, we're very clear. On day one, if you ask any of the guys that I interview or are lucky enough to get me for 20 minutes on the interview, I'm very clear with them. I say, look, I'm here to win. I want to win awards. I want to win best in class. This is what we do. So they know from day one, this is where I'm going. Number two, environmental values trump pretty much every other value to me because it's a long planet. We're here for a blink of it. We have to hand it over. So that's really important to me. And the last one is, especially given the type of culture we are, you know, it just recently was said, we have 17 different countries flying in, 300 people. The understanding that, you know, someone from Nepal is going to act culturally very different from someone from Poland. So the last part of it is patience. So, and we drive that home quite rigidly on day one as well. We want people to understand that there are going to be things that we all do that culturally to each other will be very weird, but it's about patience and, you know, building that trust with each other and learning from each other. And we get to have some fun along the way. So, I mean, when you consider we basically celebrate every major holiday because there's normally someone in our business that has something to do with it. So we get Diwali, we get the whole works here. So as a result, we get a lot of cake, a lot of celebrations. We get to pack on some pounds. But it's important that everyone understands that values from day one. What you want as the boss, what the company feels passionate about, in our case, environmental responsibility. And number three, cultural appreciation for each other. Because as much as employees can demand things from us, and they are right to do so, they should also give back equally in terms of their responsibility, frankly, by not being a dick to someone from somewhere else, whether it's from someone from Leeds to Birmingham or this, or Nepal to Poland. You know, it makes no difference. You know, people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities really need to get over this. You know, we don't want to learn from our friends in the United States. You know, we should be much further ahead in setting examples on how we drill this into our teams. And our teams are just as important to return that value in return.
I think that's massively important. And I think sometimes I don't know, maybe we give ourselves more credit for being the kind of culturally diverse and kind of inclusive industry than perhaps we are sometimes. But I think being aware of that and the work that we need to do and the steps that we need to take to ensure that everybody feels included, everybody feels like that they're valuable, and everybody feels actually that that they have a place is absolutely key. Okay. Louise, what are your thoughts on team development, and what can we do that can really engage the people within the business and within that?
So first of all, I loved what Richard does and the values you have, Richard. It was really nice to hear. We as a business at Harry, we operate across 4 different continents, and something we've done recently. We've always worked kind of in silo. You know, we've got the US, we've got the UK, we have Palestine, and we have India, and we've worked in silo in the past. And I think what this pandemic has done is really bring us all together, and we've started to do sessions, to understand each other's religious beliefs, the holidays, as you were talking about, Richard, and we just have a session where people talk about it, what it means to them, and also during Ramadan, where people aren't eating, it makes them aggy, and sometimes when you're asking me questions, I just want to eat, so it's really helped that kind of that building that trust within each other and those relationships. And I think values are vitally important. And I've been in companies where, they'll sit back of a cigarette packet and write their values, and that's them, and on the wall, and that's what they're going to be, without giving it any real meaning or depth or learning. As Richard was saying, corporate and social environmental responsibility is what this new generation of young people are looking for in businesses. This is what is happening in the world. It's vitally important. And I was listening to an interview. I think it was the HR director from Rosa's Thai, and they during the period of lockdown where we could go out for a bit last summer, they had like socially distanced picnics in Hyde Park and whatnot. They're quite a London-centric business, and during those periods of time, they had activities, and they got together. And what was born out of those sessions with all of their people, all of their employees, was their cultural and values framework. It was born from the people, and therefore, if that then happens, then people buy into it, people believe it, and people, it's come from them, it's come from the heart. So I'm a big believer in values being born, from the bottom up, if you like, rather than being, pinned down. So yeah, I think values are vitally important to build a culture. Yeah.
Well, we've all been in those positions where we've seen the posters on the wall in different brands that we've been through that have a list of values, and this is what we do, and these are our behaviors. And then you kind of have a little look around and you think, well, I'm not seeing any of those behaviors. So it feels utterly disingenuous immediately. And that can become a real bugbear very, very quickly. So all of this stuff that we talked about, the recruitment, the kind of the L&D, the tying those two things together. And I think being able to tie L&D and operations together is a real challenge, I think, in some businesses. Claudia, how do you think that we can kind of facilitate that, where rather than that kind of ivory tower approach of you must learn, you must do these, and you must tick those boxes, we can actually create an environment where this feels actually something that I want to do rather than something that I have to do because I've had this edict from head office?
Well, again, I think it's very much as a manager, building that relationship with their staff and giving them autonomy and be empowered to do that. So I think it's one thing to say, well, we want people to be responsible for learning, but if people go and attend the conference, we actually tell them off because they need to be out of, certain responsibilities during the day. So I think it's kind of really, can you empower people to do the learning? Are you praising people when they do learning activities? And are you kind of yourself are role modeling that learning as well? Because, how many times do we see that our managers not doing their learnings at all? They're not keeping up with the industry. If they're not doing it, if they're not the role models, how are I supposed to be excited and in the driving seats for my learning? So those kind of, I think, three elements are so important. Empowering your people, but also you are being the role model of the learning culture. It really starts with us.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. That modeling of the behaviors that you want to see on a daily basis is absolutely key. So we're all, as operators, I mean, I want to know how this is going to benefit me and how it's going to benefit my business, because, well, that's kind of the deal, isn't it? Rich, you touched on that kind of 3-month training process of your front of house guys. That's a fairly intensive process that takes time, energy, and money. There's a resource, there's a cost to that. What are the benefits of doing that to your business, mate?
Benefits is, frankly, a fast return on investment. These guys, by the time they're, let's take Aware, because it's the one that was brought up. They very quickly are able to integrate with the guest, integrate, because as part of our training process, by the way, we don't just do this isn't just training for operation, like how to put a glass down or how to carry a tray. Actually, no, we also include once a month, there's a huge investment in, I'll have, Hublot come in and talk about their watch range for 2021 and 2022. And they'll come in and they'll train people and they'll talk to our team, staff, management, and everyone on stuff like that. I'll have, makeup people come in and talk about what's coming up for April and summer and spring and summer, what the trend's going to be. We'll have Jimmy Choo come in and talk about their new collections, so on and so forth. And the reason we do all this is because, here's a good example. If a lady walks in and they've got, a beautiful little Louis Vuitton handbag, they want to know that the person that's taking care of them also recognizes that. So it's the little things in life, such as the lady puts her handbag down the table, and this handbag's like $1,500 or whatever. And the first thing she sees is the way to move the soy sauce pot or something equivalent away from the bag or whatever. It's a tiny detail that when women have handbags like this, and we're not saying like the ultra rich who have like 12 of them, they're saying about someone that's looked forward to coming out because they managed to dig out the bag that sits in their wardrobe because they finally get to bring it out. So the fact that that's recognized means a lot. So this is what becomes a big part of the process. In addition, for us, we actually do guest recognition training as well. So they have to be able to recognize prior to starting certain identified key guests. So when they walk in, it's not, oh, hi, here are you? Like, oh yeah, I've been coming here a while and I've spent X. They should automatically know who this person is, what they do. For our managers, they even have to know who their children are, where they go to school, when they go on holidays, all this kind of stuff. So that's what fills up the bulk of our training program. The actual process of the silver service, or whatever you want to call it, we don't use silver service anymore. It's just kind of high-end casual. But that part of the process is actually quite short. It's maybe like, I don't know, 4 weeks. And the other rest of the time, the other 8 weeks is filled up with understanding who it is whose butt's in the chair. Whether it's, in our industry, we have two major things that can cause a guest never to come back with our teams. And we're guilty of making them do it, is we tell them upsell, 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 upsell. You go to a table, and it doesn't matter if it's casual dining or high end. You send your server over to a table, and maybe this person spent a month, or in fine dining cases, they spent 4 months saving up enough to take Mrs. or Mr. out for something to eat, and they've got a budget in their head, and they know kind of what they order, and they've got it in, and they're there. And then you send someone over who's just doing all the hard stuff, and you completely devastate this person's night. And this can happen in whatever. So they're never going to come back. They're never going to tell other people positive things about it, and you're going to leave a sour taste in their mouth. So guest recognition tends to be the biggest part of our training program, and it tends to be the biggest part that we spend the largest amount of influence, especially with front of house. For our back of house teams, their largest point is two things. Number one, before they're allowed to cut a single vegetable, they go through all our food safety training and everything else. And then actually, depending on what they've done, so we actually trial them in different parts of our kitchens, because they may say, all right, for the past X number of years, I've been, doing saute or a wok or a tapan or anything like that. And we're like, okay, and they're very good at that, but they hate doing it. So we'll actually, regardless of what their background is, we'll try them in every single station and all the rest. And afterwards, we actually just sit down with them and say, out of interest, which one did you like doing? And he may say, oh, I like this one because it's where I feel most comfortable and all the rest of it. Or they may say, actually, you know what? I really like doing X. I've never had a chance to do it. Okay, great. Now that's where you go. So yes, it may mean we still have to hire someone somewhere else down the line for another position, but we keep rotating people, keep moving people around. We move people within our brands as well, so they don't get bored. But we don't try and shoehorn people into roles, which I think we can all be at times a little guilty. So that tends to be our training process and how we look at it from a holistic point of view. And the results have been fruitful for the most part. So we don't anticipate changing it anytime too soon.
And those benefits are absolutely huge there. I mean, that example of kind of understanding your guest budget and not always going in for the hard sell, that goes through all of the pyramid of hospitality and restaurant life. You know, everybody when they go out for dinner has got an idea about what they're going to spend, and do they want to be made to feel bad because they can't necessarily spend that little bit more on that, maybe that little more expensive wine or whiskey, whatever it is. No, they don't, you know, and then that will absolutely taint the experience for them going forward. And that's the thing that they'll remember. That's the feeling that they'll remember, not the kind of the rest of it that was lovely, but it was that moment of thinking, I can't quite do just that little bit more. And that person has kind of just made me feel uncomfortable about that. So I love the fact that you're identifying that. And I think that moment as well, where you talk about kind of moving that bottle of soy sauce away from that expensive bottle, that's a wonderful example of non-verbal communication that says, I've got you. You know, what you've done is you've walked into my restaurant, you've put yourself into my hands, and I'm going to take care of you and everything that's important to you going forward. And that is a wonderful thing. That is, again, that just sits with that guest, and they just instantly start to relax and feel much more comfortable from the very starting point of that experience. So I think, again, absolutely amazing. So I think when we think about all of everything that we've talked about in the last hour, and it has been an hour, it's now 5:02. So we're coming up towards the back end of this, but this has been an amazing conversation. And you know, when I put this together and I thought about you three, this is what I expected to happen, because each of you has absolutely brought some real solid gold to it. You know, looking from Louise and that understanding of that recruitment process and that kind of onboarding process, Richard from an operator, and just being able to look at that. And you know, Richard and I have got a joint history of Hard Rock, and we've shared a hotel room, Rich, haven't we? You know, that was weird.
We have.
First time we met, we're sharing a hotel room, but straight away I remembered at that point that this guy we kind of got it and what it was all about. And it's amazing to see what you've grown into and how you kind of develop in your business. And Claudia, just your passion for L&D, as is written in the comments, is a wonderful thing to see. And this is the passion, this is the inspiration that we need to be paying forward to our people. Thank you to Jane, to Paul, to Matthew. If you guys have got any questions at all, feel free to turn your camera on and ask. I'm going to thank Chris as well, because he's just observed the fact that I didn't acknowledge his existence, and that makes him feel sad about himself. Guys, have you got anything else that you want to finish up on? Any final points that you'd like to make?
I just want to say that Richard talking about the recognition of a Louis Vuitton handbag. I went to Petrus it just reminded me, I went to Petrus a couple of years ago, and I was given a stall for my handbag. Do you offer that?
Yeah, so we have handbag stalls, but what we also do is any woman that comes in with a handbag, we now have our customized little miniature handbag flips. So what we do is we have of course the wedges, the handbag wedges, so they can sit them next to them, and then also we give them this beautiful little silken pouch thing, and in there is a handbag holder. So when they leave us, wherever they go, if they go to a bar, another restaurant, coffee shop, whatever, it means their bag won't have to touch the floor for the rest of the night because we give it to them. It costs us $2, but it means a lot to them.
We also do that in Liverpool. We look after your handbag straight away for you. Just hand it to us. We'll
Definitely.
Chris, 100 lines from you. I shall not diss Liverpool.
That is my only. No, I'm from Liverpool. I can say that.
Still though, dude. Still though. I mean, I
thought it was very interesting. Anyway, just thought I'd say hi.
Very funny.
The very fact that the way you said, yes, of course we have handbag stores. I'm like, I need to up my game as to about where I'm eating. It's the same.
Yeah.
Go places have got hat stores. That's what I need in my life.
Our newest one is going to be 22,000 square foot restaurant.
Is it? Where is it?
Yeah. That will be in our newest one in Riyadh, which is the capital here. So yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Amazing. Well, thank you all very much. It is 5:05. We have overrun, and as is fairly standard in my life, if I'm honest with you, I'm okay with that. Charlotte, thank you. You've been lovely. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And Brittany, thank you very much for your care and attention. I do believe there is a cocktail party now. I sadly won't be able to join the cocktail party. I have to go and rescue my dog from doggy daycare. She will be sad if I leave her, and it will go badly for me.
Bring her back to the party.
You would not want that in your life. She's a wrecking machine. But guys, thank
Even
you.
virtually.
It really is. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been really great.
Thanks,
Been really
everyone.
great
Nice to
Thanks,
see you,
listening to
Rich.
Richard. Thanks, Louise.
Thank you so
Claudia,
much.
guys.
Brittany.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch.